I like to use small particles to kickstart a swim when I'm carp fishing. Even barbel and tench fishing, it can be really useful too. And for that you only need a couple of pints, maybe a kilo of bait that you can either buy ready-made in a jar or you can prepare it easily enough yourself. So today let's have a look at how easy it is to do it. So you can buy ready-made particle mixes, which are brilliant, very easy to use and have a good mixture of seeds in. And if you're only using a small amount, that's probably the best way to go. If you're thinking about using particle baits on a regular basis, then of course you can make up your own mixes using hemp, groats, dari seeds, anything you like really. Kibbled corn is another good one. And make up a distinct mix that you like yourself. But the basics for preparing it are pretty much the same. So to start the preparation process, all I want to do is put the dry particle baits into a large container. And then what I'll do is cover them with about twice the volume of water, because they will swell up a bit. And the reason for soaking them overnight is really to allow them to swell up, because you don't want that to happen when fish have eaten the minutes the food's in the gut. Much better that it's swollen up and at full size before you use them as bait. Absolutely essential really. So then I'll put the lid on, make sure they're well covered in water, and just leave them overnight in the back of the garage, and they'll soak up and probably end up about twice the size that they started up with. Then generally the next morning I'll transfer them to a large pan, and I tend to keep a pan just for baits like this, particles and making boilies and stuff like that, rather than use my wife's best crockery. And then again, make sure they're still covered in water. I've not put any additives in yet because the boiling process will take most of that off and evaporate it off, so we don't want to do that yet. We'll do that right at the end. Then turn on the heat, and they'll need cooking for about 15 minutes. That's really just to kill the seed and to soften them up a bit. So we'll come back when they're cooked and see what we've got. Right, so them seeds have been cooking now for about 15 minutes, and that's enough just to kill them off and to soften up the bait. So I'll generally start letting them cool down a little bit. And here's what we got. Here's my scoop. I like to keep the liquid on them as well, because that adds to the attraction. Obviously that's a lot of the goodness, a lot of the carbohydrates and the starches from the seeds that have been released, which are really attractive. So I'll keep them. And before that's cooled down completely, I'll just add one additive that I always use really, and that's for a pan of bait like this. I'll add about a tablespoonful of rock salt, or in this case sea salt. And make sure it's proper salt, not just table salt, because that isn't as good at all. So stick to the sea salt or the rock salt, give that a good mix. And there you go, you can either use that straight away or let it cool down, bag it up and stick it in the freezer. And I normally sort of like to bag it up in about 2 pint amounts. So I've got a rough idea, I don't have to take too much with me. And there you go, a brilliant particle mix that will catch lots of fish, and is a great way to get fish into the swim, attract them and get them feeding, and then switch them over onto bigger baits. So check it out, really good bait to use.